Welcome back. You tuned into Educational Insights on our Inspired segment this afternoon with me, Mariam Mia, your host, and I have with me live. And please join us on Facebook. Join the conversation on Facebook, or else you can audio stream us. Get us on TuneIn app. I'm talking to Matric head girl of St. Martins, Letani Keyter. Welcome, Letani, to Salam Media.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. And how does it feel to wear a uniform second week after a long absence, wearing your uniform, full kitted out in your winter uniform? And how does it feel being back at school?
Oh, we are very excited. I think we were definitely looking forward to coming back to school, and we're so thankful that we can be back.
And I think that's last week I interviewed a grade 7 learner as well, because they now the seniors in primary school, and she had the
Yes.
same enthusiasm in terms of wanting to be back at school and just to be back into that educational environment. And I'm feeling that it's tangible in terms of your enthusiasm and your excitement of being back at school.
Definitely. I also think it's to a very small extent a return to normal, and we need the stability to be back and in the uniform and in the classroom. So yes, we're very excited.
That's good. And this year was going to be your year in terms of you were in matric. You were elected head girl of the school, and I think all that. And then COVID-19 brought a little damper, should I say, to all maybe what you had in your mind in terms of your expectations, your contribution, your legacy you wanted to leave at St. Martin in terms of your leadership roles and that. So how has all those visions take a sort of like a detour, and are you still on track and keen that yourself as well as your peers, your matriculants, will still have that positive impact uh, for the year 2020, Matrix 2020?
I think we definitely did not expect this, and this wasn't what we had in mind when we thought Matric 2020. Even at the beginning of the year, if you told us that we would be doing most of our school over a screen, we would have looked at you kind of funny. But I think it's definitely brought challenges, and there are times where you're not necessarily too enthusiastic or too excited, but we've learned a whole new set of skills that I'm actually really thankful for. Just in terms of how to do work online and to leave less of a paper trail, and to be more aware of the environment in how we approach our studies. So it's definitely been worth it.
I love what you said, because that hasn't been brought up. Many people were speaking of the silver linings and the positives of COVID-19. Also, they've become more responsible in the independent learners. In terms of this time a Zoom lesson, I needed to be here on time and I had to be disciplined and help myself. But I love what you said, because I'm a eco warrior myself, very much for lowering our carbon footprint and that. And I'm so pleased you brought this up, because, like you say, e-learning meant less of a paper trail, and in certain
Yes.
ways, even you lowered your carbon footprint by not actually going physically to school for that moment.
Yes, and it's definitely carrying on into our schooling now. I mean, we're handing in work online, whereby before we would have to print it out and give it to the teacher. So we are taking the skills that we learned during the lockdowns still into our year this year.
I'm so pleased. And how are you anxious or nervous at all that you might not cover the full learning content for the year and be prepared then adequately for your exams, for your prelim exams, and then the final exams? How's your feelings on that and your perceptions in terms of that?
I think we're all definitely nervous. We were more nervous in the beginning. I think now that we're back to school, it feels a little more stress-free, and the teachers are putting in a lot of effort to make us feel comfortable. I think also with our school, the exam times changed, so it did take a bit of adapting, but I think the whole education system is really focused on getting us through this year, and it's almost comforting to know that you have almost that extra support that previous years didn't really have, because they understand the extenuating circumstances.
And how has been in terms of getting your mind around? I'm no more going to hug my friends and we're going to be together. And, I think, especially your matric group, your core group of friends, now it's the last year in this setup. People are going to move on to various educational institutions in terms of their tertiary studies. So, this group, you become closer in your matric year. You start bonding. And even if you had challenging relationships with some of your peers in your uh, earlier years, like grade 8, grade 9, you all come together. It's just this magic of matric that you come together and you gel and you understand each other and you empathize. And there are certain traditions that every school has that's a rite of passage once you get to matric. Those things now sort of you have to do it, but you have to be restrained. How you getting navigating around all that?
I 100% agree with you. It's a little difficult, and I think it took us a while to realize exactly how big the responsibility is to confine to the social distance where we can't be near each other, and it's definitely challenging, especially if we can't go on camps or something like this where we could really bond. But at the same time, I've made closer friendships because you shoot someone a message and you say, I don't really understand this PowerPoint of what the teacher said, and because you can't ask, or you can ask the teacher, but you'll ask a peer first. So we've sort of formed bonds regardless, and I think because we got through this together, we're getting through this together. We're all facing the same struggles. We're definitely coming closer inside the social distance.
And in the classroom, how is it now? Are your desk apart? Are you required to wear a mask? Are you people having a face mask, or you have the shield, or you have a screen in front of you? And how is it breathing and having prolonged lessons through whatever protective gear equipment? Just set the scene in terms of your matric class.
Okay, so we are now only in certain locations where it's big enough, because our classes aren't big enough, or not all of them are big enough to have the desks 1.5 meters away from each other. And there's hand sanitizers outside each classroom and outside each big venue. And as we go in and out, we hand sanitize. And of course, we're wearing masks, and the teachers are wearing masks and shields. And there's a lot of precautions that are being taken. And I think the biggest one for me that's affected the way that I go to school the most, of course, the mask, because you can't really breathe properly, or okay, you can breathe, but it's a bit of a struggle.
It's a hindrance. Yeah, you feel like you're grasping for air.
Yes. And your friend can't hear you because you need to stand far away from each other. And now you have the mask in your face. But also for our school, they're putting the certain grades at different areas during break time. And we're having staggered breaks. So the grades aren't ever mixing. And especially because our school is quite small, everybody has friends in every grade. So it's very different to be only with your grade and only in a certain field or something like this. But it's also interesting because we never forced to sit as a whole grade in the same place during breaks. So I think in this, we're also coming closer together despite the 1.5 meters. So yeah, there's a lot of change, but it's not necessarily negative.
Okay, so for you, in terms of positive, and also let's focus on your role now as a head girl, because that was a very interactive role, and also it focused, besides just the actual learning, and that it focused on you having mentoring programs for the school. You're seen as this mentor, as a peer mentor, and also people look up to you in terms of being a leader. Do you feel extra pressure now because everything you do, people are going to look at you? Are you following rules? Are you following protocols? And also in terms of you giving off, in terms of what you had in mind, in terms of your legacy as the head girl, has that now gone? And I'm sure it's not gone according to plan, but now have you have plans in place that, what, I decided I want to introduce this in school, I'm going to do this program and that? Do you still have it in the pipeline and you're going to make it happen?
I think it's definitely changed, and it definitely, especially initially, I almost felt, where do I stand in this? How do I even speak with the school? Because if I don't have just one student's number, then I'm not able to contact the whole school, and if somebody doesn't have internet connection, I felt very disconnected, and I didn't really know how I fit into this. But I think, especially now that we're phasing in coming back, but also now that I've learned how to make some Instagram videos, we have, as the Matric group, we've come together to kind of make it work regardless. And we're still trying to speak with the students and get in contact, and we make Instagram the IGTV videos. So and in this way, it's almost like assembly, but not quite. And yeah, I think definitely in terms of my legacy, I'm not quite sure where I stand anymore. But at the same time, I feel like it's more important to do something in the school. Now there's, I mean, even just the widespread racial discrimination protest that is going on, and I think there's really a lot to speak about in today's age, or in today's times. And I think that I'm very privileged to have a platform on which I can speak and reach even just the amounts of people in my school. So yeah, I think it's a blessing in disguise. I don't know if I can put it that way, but yeah.
You'll find your path. I think one thing you won't be short of is causes to create awareness and just support people. Because if I look at this, even the fact that you're able to receive your studies online and study online, that alone is a privilege in itself, because there are many matriculants, thousands of matriculants like yourself, who don't have access to the internet, or the cost of data is just too expensive. It's a trade-off between putting food on the table or purchasing data for some families. And obviously food is going to be a priority there. So like I say, just having to be able to study online, and your peers being able to study online, that is a privilege in itself, and you need to highlight that. And I see it, sadly, even I think now that restrictions have eased, so too has the plight of domestic violence. Abuse against women and children have increased, with few ladies losing their lives due to, and the perpetrators of people they knew. And I think as a girls' school, that would be something very close to your heart, in terms of raising the profile in terms of female abuse and something like that. So I think there's always causes that we can take up. We just have to be innovative in terms of the way we do it.
Definitely. And I also think, especially now, because everybody is so reliant on social media, and you're very much more aware of what is happening around you based off of the information you're receiving from social media. It's almost amplifies your voice when you say something online, because everybody's online already. You don't need to wait for them to log in or something like this. So there are definitely a lot of causes that we actually finally have time to focus on and to put our time into as we are at home, and we can think about these things. So definitely.
And plans for the future, what's happening in terms of your university MBTs and things like that? Tell us a little more, because I'm just speaking to you now, I'm chatting that MBTs, normally you start it in March and you can write up to, I think, October, or is it September? In terms of MBTs, are they going to offer, what are universities saying about MBTs? Are they going to be online, or are they not going to be writing them at all? Or can you give us some feedback on that?
So I'm not entirely sure, but I know that some of the information that has been going around our guidance class is that the NBTs are not necessary. You do not need to write them, only for 2020. But personally, I was not going to go study next year. I'd first like to do a gap year, get some experience and some funds to actually go and study. And yes, I think everybody kind of is uncertain about our plans next year, and it's still very much changing, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, but I think that's why, in hindsight, maybe a gap year in terms of finding yourself, finding your passion, where would you like, and probably even for next year, even job shadowing or working in industry for 2 or 3 months, or going to a place and putting your foot in the door and saying, you know what, I'm here, you don't need to pay me. I just want to see what this environment would be like for 3 months. Are you able to accommodate me and do something like that, especially in a time of uncertainty? And like you say, you're not even sure in terms of, because like I said, all the normal matric rituals of, I'm going to go and write my MBT and I didn't do so well, or I did well, I want to do a rewrite, excitement, and that waiting for the response from universities to say whether you are provisionally accepted, or they say they're going to wait for your marks and things like that. So those are all things, a part of, I would say, the matric landscape, and that is not yet happening because things are changing every day. And I think universities are also not sure what their plans are for 2021 in terms. I think everybody's focusing just on 2020, so it's not. It's going to be a matric to remember.
Definitely. And I think, especially because the universities are unsure of, I mean, the students who are currently there, it's very difficult for them to see how they are making provisions for the students who are yet to come. But yes, I'm very certain that I was speaking about this to my grandkids one day when they're complaining about their matric being so difficult. And then we can maybe help them.
Absolutely. But what, in terms of your areas of interest, which field do you think where are you gravitating towards? Health sciences, engineering, the arts? What is your passion in terms of the direction or the faculty which you'd like to be studying? Any idea?
I would most likely go into humanities. I'm very much a people's
Mhm.
person, and I'm not entirely sure yet how, maybe psychology or something like this, where I can help other people. But this is sort of what I was trying to find out next year. But I don't know. We will have to see, but definitely humanities.
Yeah, so we'll wait for Letani to make big waves in terms of giving back to the community, assisting in them. But thank you so much
Yes.
for coming on air here and sharing any final thoughts and any advices for your fellow matriculants out there. Please, we're giving you the platform.
Thank you very much. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for having me and for allowing me to speak. But also think that as matric students, we are caught in between the two ideas that there are people who are busy losing their lives and are struggling day to day to get food on the table as they can't go to work. So we almost feel like our problems are not big enough to be a real problem. But at the same time, we need to understand that we've been working at this for over 12 years and we've put in time and energy and efforts. And I think that it's okay to feel stressed and to feel anxious. But at the same time, we shouldn't be overwhelmed because there are so many people who are working into getting us through this year that it's almost a blessing that so many people are focused on getting us through this. So there's really no need to worry, but we also shouldn't feel that our worries are too small to be a real worry.
So we all have your back, all the matrix here from Salam Media as well. We offering you our support, our prayers, our best wishes in giving the platform. And I think everybody will do what they can in terms of whichever way they can to facilitate and make sure that our matriculants are adequately prepared in terms of learning content covered, and then also prepared in terms of emotionally and psychologically for the exams. And the matric exams 2020, we're all praying that it goes ahead, first of all, and without
Yes.
any glitches. Maybe there might just be a slight delay in maybe a couple of weeks in terms of, because I don't think that timetable would stand. Maybe it would start later and finish up later. Results will then be released later. But let's see if we all can work together, hold thumbs, and assist all the relevant role players to ensure that our matric 2020s graduate in 2020 and they go ahead with this. I really wish you all the best, and to all the matriculants out there, and thank you for availing yourself and joining us here on Salam Media.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. And that was Letani Keyter, and she was speaking to us regarding her experiences on returning back to school, a learner from St. Martin's. and actually the head girl of St. Martins. And you know what? I love interviewing. Last week we had Amani Dokra from Parkview Senior, and I love interviewing learners themselves because it gives you insight into their thinking, and the future bodes well because I seen before me last week and this week two bright young learners full of promise, enthusiastic to be back into the classroom. You can see their love for learning is tangible and so focused on that year. Letani is focused on hearing to go everything to prepare themselves to write that matric examination. And wherever we can, in our small ways, even though we might no longer have kids in the educational system or very young kids there, if we can do something, maybe offer extra tuition if you're an expert in the area to those that under resourced or struggling or any which way that you can lighten a load. There are some schools where even girls' schools, they're struggling because sanitary hygiene products, female hygiene products are no longer a priority when food is a necessity. Funds are being spent in school in terms of personal protection equipment, making sure that schools are adequately sanitized and hygiene and in the purchase of hand sanitizers, etc. That I've heard at some of the schools, there's a dire need in terms of providing sanitary way to kids to learners so that they don't miss any lessons any further due to this. So please find out, contact the local schools, see how you can assist in terms of providing resources, providing your expertise, and just making it easy so that no learner will be deprived this year in terms of not meeting the learning content and having to then repeat the year. So I would appeal to everybody, let's help our matrics. In fact, all our learners, see how you can help in terms of even feeding schemes have stopped. So if you can even just provide maybe 5, 6 loaves of bread and fillings for sandwiches so that the nutritional needs of a child is taken care of so they can focus on the core learning activities wherever you can assist. Maybe you're an ex-educator or you're an expert in terms of you're an engineer who's experienced in chemistry and physics, and you can offer extra supplementary or complementary lessons. Please do. Let's all be part of that support group to ensure that everybody, all our 2020 learners this year, actually write the exams, and I not only write the exams, but they are successful in terms of the consolidation and the understanding of the learning content taught. So that's my appeal to you today, this afternoon. Tomorrow, we're looking forward to another Sterling show. Tomorrow being June 16th, Youth Day, and that's something we can think about. I remember when I was young, growing up, prior to June 16 being a public holiday, it was a day of stay away. All the shops were closed. When we were younger, I didn't really understand why I was asked not to go to school. And then as I got older, I was adamant that is a day of protest. And I will not go to school in terms of showing support and solidarity in my high school years. And then when finally, when we had our constitutional democracy and June 16 was declared a public holiday, a youth day, took on new meaning. But are the youth still so active in terms of their activism and they're fighting for issues that are close to their heart, especially for education? Or have we just taken this? Has this just become June 16, another chill out, relaxed public holiday this year, not no going away due to our restrictions in that part? Or does it have the same meaning? The Hector Peterson Memorial is just down the road from our studio, and due to restrictions tomorrow, I don't know if it's going to be a hive of activity, but on that day, people who have experienced the hardship and were part of the struggle, the liberation struggle, it was a momentous day for them. But does it still have the same meaning? Maybe some things to ponder about and discuss. And I would like to get input from you tomorrow. So if you'd like to join in the conversation tomorrow, please send me an email at Mia at Salam Media, and I would be looking forward to engaging everybody regarding June 16? Does it hold the same significance as it did maybe 30 years ago? With that, I'd like to sign off and stay warm and stay safe. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.